I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So before we begin tonight, I'd like to just read the Government Affairs Committee mission statement. The Sheridan County Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Committee acts as a conduit for ideas and information regarding public policy to flow between members, the board, local municipalities, and elected officials in order to support the health of our communities and the mission of our chamber. We'd also just like to talk a little bit about the following two items that will be on the general election ballot. I have a few statements to read about those two items. The first, the Sheridan County 1% Specific Purpose Capital Facilities Tax, or CAP tax, is an optional sales and use tax approved by Sheridan County voters. 100% of the revenue collected goes to fund infrastructure projects in Sheridan County, Claremont, Dayton, and Manchester. The CAP tax is approved for a specific amount for specific capital improvements to community infrastructure. Once the approved amount is raised, the tax automatically expires unless voters choose to renew the tax for another round of projects. Sheridan County voters approved this tax in 1989, 1998, 2003, 2009, 2013, and 2020. Additional information can be found at sheridancountywy.gov. The second item, the proposed amendment to the Wyoming Constitution, or property tax on residential property and owner-occupied primary residence amendment, adds residential real property as a fourth separate class of property. If passed, it authorizes the legislature to create a subclass of residential property for owner-occupied primary residence, which could be assessed at a different rate from other property in the residential property class. Additional information can be found at wyoleg.gov/legislation/2024/HJ0001. Let's get started. So as candidates right now, we have the candidate for United States Senator up on stage, but as candidates come up, if candidates would enter from the right side of the stage and then depart over here by the podium. So we have two candidates for United States Senator. Senator Barrasso was not able to make it this evening, but has a statement. Dear friends, thank you for the opportunity to be a small part of your candidate forum this evening while in Washington representing Wyoming in the Senate during these critical times. I've led the fight against the Biden-Harris policies of putting American energy last. America can be energy independent. If we put Wyoming energy first, that means thousands of good-paying jobs and money to support Wyoming schools and students. My office has helped hundreds of people solve their problems with the federal government, like Medicare, Social Security, veterans issues, and heavy-handed regulations. The crisis at our southern border has brought drug trafficking, human trafficking, and crime. Millions of illegal immigrants have poured into our country since Joe Biden became president, and threw the border wide open. While Kamala Harris was supposed to be the border czar, she helped reverse the effective border controls of President Trump's administration. The economy is a major concern. It is evident every time we go to the grocery store or gas station. The Biden-Harris agenda of reckless spending and heavy-handed regulations has increased our cost of living by more than $1,000 each month for a Wyoming family. I am proud to have President Donald Trump's endorsement. Together we can bring back his tough policies on the border, lower costs for families, make our communities safer, and get our country back on track. We can get spending under control, unleash American energy, and do away with punishing regulations. Thank you for everything you do to keep the people of Sheridan County informed about the important issues before Wyoming and the country during this election. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Best wishes, John Barrasso, United States Senator. So on stage we have our other candidate, Scott Morrow. So Scott will begin with a 2-minute intro.
Is the mic working? Great. Hello to everybody, and thank you to the Chamber. Thank you to the timer and Karen for setting all this up, and thank you all for coming. I'm so grateful that I get to to have at least the discussion. And I'd like to start with the fact that Senator Brasso is not running against Vice President Harris. He's running against me, okay? And to set the record straight, our energy does not have a war against it. We're producing more energy in the United States than in history. We're the #1 energy producer in the world. Now, those are the facts. I don't know why Senator Brasso keeps saying that. Inflation is under 3%. If you can't live in Wyoming without an increase of $1,000 a month in expenses, I'm in deep trouble because I make $1,000 a month. I'm a paycheck to paycheck person just like the rest of you. I started out living in poverty as a child. I became a single parent of 5 minor dependent children, and despite a union job and sometimes second and third jobs, those kids lived in poverty, but they didn't go to bed hungry. Many Wyoming children go to bed hungry. To me, that's insane in the richest country in the history of the world. Some of them in Teton County, it's the richest county in the whole country. So what I did is I got a union job, the post office, and went on to become a president of the local union, the director of industrial relations. Now I'm the president of retiree chapter, and that's why I've called Senator Brasso's office hundreds and hundreds of times, and he's voted 100% of the time against seniors and retirees. And that's why I ran, plus the fact last time I called his office, Gregory told me, if you don't like it, why don't you run for the Senate? Well, here I am, and everybody I talk to loves term limits. I'm a term limiter for Senator Brasso. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And just, I appreciate the applause. I think if we could hold the applause to keep us moving along throughout the evening, that would be fabulous. We're going to start with the first question. Scott, you have 1 minute on the question. What do you think the future of fossil fuel energy is in both the state and the nation?
The fossil fuel future, I was corrected at the Hageman Town Hall in Laramie. It's carbon fuels now. That's what they told me. Not fossil fuels. Anyway, whatever it is, the future is somewhat bleak if you want to continue to produce it the way we are. Coal has dropped. Coal has now been passed over by alternative energy sources, the other new energy. It's at the bottom of the list. Most of Wyoming, or a preponderance of Wyoming's coal mining is going to China as an export, which is good. That brings money in here, but the problem is most of those coal mining companies are foreign companies. I'd much prefer that our future include American companies mining in Wyoming. Natural gas was going to be big, and we've got that. My concern is when it does go away, and it will go away one way or the other, we don't have an infinite supply. What's going to happen to those workers? They have families. We should start now to work on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. The second question, what do you think of requirements that either the state or federal government attach to funding? When is it necessary and when should it be avoided?
Funding for?
Just any funding from the state or federal government.
Okay, well, my understanding is, based on the reports I'm getting, that the state legislature has $1 billion in the bank for a rainy day fund. I think that should be used to feed children who are going hungry at night, maybe help 37% of our population who are poor. As far as federal funding goes, let's use it. Let's have federal funding. Let's help out where we can if Wyoming will accept it. But let's have it paid for. There isn't a thing that we want to spend money on that we cannot come up with a way to pay for. So that's my solution. I'd like to see, for example, the child care tax credit. It lifted 50% of children out of poverty in the 1 year before it sunsetted. I'd like to see that come back. Well, that costs money because it cuts taxes. Anytime you cut taxes, it actually costs money. So I'd like to see those things continue. I'd like to see the border bill that was almost free. And then if you fund stuff, pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you. The third question this evening, what do you see as the most pressing issues facing our country, and how would you address them if elected?
Well, for me, I start with the minimum wage for servers. We've got mostly women. who make $2.13 an hour serving you your meal when you go to a restaurant in Wyoming, for example, at Perkins. The Perkins in Colorado, they make $14 an hour. The prices are exactly the same. The Perkins in Colorado are not going out of business. We can afford to give a raise to these mostly young women, some of them a little bit closer to my age, but nonetheless, they've been on that wage for 28 years. Come on. I think we need to do better than that. Secondly, I want children to be able to go to bed without being hungry. And I want them to go to school with breakfast. They do much better in school. It's a lot better for the teachers. I want teachers to be paid and compensated properly. And we can do that. We can do that from the federal level with lots of different ideas. I'd love to see some federal legislation to help out the unions so they can form unions. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final question this evening, how would you work to bridge partisan divides and promote bipartisanship?
Well, that one, that's pretty hard in this 118th Congress, right? They're not seeming to get much done. In fact, they're the most do-nothing Congress basically since 1850 during the Civil War. And I think what we need to do is we need to be nice. I mean, what's wrong with being nice? It doesn't seem very nice right now. And we can't seem to get to it. People, we agree on 80% of everything. What we disagree on is 20%, and then maybe we disagree on some of the solutions and how we're going to spend the federal tax dollars. But definitely, I think if we were nice. Now, I worked with postal management for over 3 decades as an advocate. That's very, very challenging. If I can negotiate with postal management and work with them, I can work with anybody across the aisle. Even James Lankford, who wrote the border bill that was perfectly fine, that was killed by Republican leadership, which is John Barrasso. So I think we must work across the aisle, and I will work across the aisle. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And now we'd like to hear your closing comments.
Okay, I want everybody to know I don't care who you love. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what party you registered with or if you registered with a party. I'm going to be fighting for you in the Senate. I'm going to fight for you to have a livable wage. I'm going to fight for you to have a safe working environment. Right now, over 3,000 Americans have to give their lives to have a job every single year because we don't have appropriate safety and health measures. I'm going to fight to make sure you have a clean environment. I'm going to fight to make sure that our extraction industries do as well as possible. And when they can't anymore, because we run out, I want those families and those workers to be taken care of. We need to start educating them to work on some of the other energy sources that we're going to be moving into, and we are going to be moving into it no matter how much we drag our heels. I'd love to see the minimum wage increase. It's been 28 years, folks. We got to do it. It's got to be done. The reason I like unions is unions increase the wage. None of those 3,000 were union workers. But the union workers have a safe job. And unions are good for the economy. The more money we have, the more we spend. The more we spend, the better your economy. So that's what I'd like to see. And I'll have to work across the aisle like Cody was saying, and I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking our candidate for Senate. If we could now have the candidate for our United States representative come to the stage. Thank you. All right, so 2 of our candidates weren't able to make it this evening, but provided a statement. We'll first hear a statement from Harriet Hageman. I apologize that I cannot attend in person tonight, but Congress is in session in Washington, D.C. It has been the honor of my lifetime to get to represent you and Wyoming in the U.S. House of Representatives. I know you hear a lot of negatives coming out of D.C., but I want to tell you that we are doing a lot of good work as well. My bill to stop the Rock Springs RMP passed out of committee just last week. We've uncovered countless examples of the weaponization of the federal government against its U.S. citizens, and we've played defense against reckless overreach by the Biden-Harris administration. In just over 1 month, we'll elect President Trump, flip the United States Senate, and God willing, return a Republican-held House. Then we can get to work getting this country back on track. God bless you, God bless Wyoming, and God bless our country. We also have a statement from Jeff Haggett. Greetings. I was a candidate for U.S. House of Representatives in 2020, and here I am again in 2024. I am the current Constitution Party of Wyoming state chairman. I have lived in southeast Wyoming since 1976 after graduating from high school. I graduated Pi Theta Kappa from Western Wyoming Community College in 1978. I have studied the Constitution from online classes offered at Hillsdale College. I am an alumnus of the Uinta County Leadership Institute class of 2016. I've also served on the United Way of Southwest Wyoming's Uinta Advisory Council. Thomas Jefferson said the policy of American government is to leave its citizens free, neither restraining them nor aiding them in their pursuits. We have natural rights. Those natural rights, unalienable rights, guaranteed by our Constitution must be the standards by which all legitimate government activity is framed. We must disassociate ourselves entirely from the United Nations, defund the World Health Organization, and secure our nation's border. Our personal medical freedoms and private property rights must be protected. Asset forfeitures without a felony conviction must be abolished. These are a clear violation of our Constitution. Central bank digital currencies must never come to fruition. Financial autonomy is crucial to freedom. Freedom of speech and our Second Amendment are not negotiable. I have a Facebook page called Haggett for Freedom for more of my thoughts and comments. My campaign website is haggett4house.com. I don't take money from PACs or special interests. I humbly ask for your vote, and my many thanks to the Sheridan County Chamber of Commerce for their invitation to this forum. We now will begin with comments from our candidate who was able to join us. Thank you for coming, Kyle G. Cameron. We'll start with your 2-minute intro.
Can I have a moment for clarification on timing?
Sure.
So does the timing begin when you finish the question or when I begin to answer the
So
question?
I believe when I finish the question, is that correct? Oh, I apologize.
Okay, so I do
When you
have a
begin.
moment to think before I just start answering. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for
clarification.
clarification. All right, your
Right.
2-minute intro.
Well, thank you, Sheridan Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Government Affairs. Thank you, Public Broadcasting, for giving us this opportunity to introduce ourselves to you, the voters. It is truly an honor and very touching to be here. I grew up hearing over and over again, I heard, go out and make a name for yourself. You need to go out and make a name for yourself. And me being the rebellious person that I am, I decided the thing that I needed to do was go out and make up a name for myself. So that's what I did. I made up a name. I am Kyle Cameron. I am campaigning for your vote for U.S. House of Representatives for Wyoming's at-large district. If I sound like I've been repeating that, it's because I have. I've been making a lot of phone calls. So if you've gotten a voicemail from me and it sounds like I'm repeating the same thing, I am. Also, if it sounds like there's people in the background often when I'm calling, there are other volunteers calling as well. I am a Wyoming native. I was born in Cheyenne. My mother was born on the homestead outside of Du Bois. My father was from Oklahoma, and his mother and her siblings moved here, and then my father and her siblings moved to Wyoming as well. I am a University of Wyoming graduate. I graduated from Casper College distance learning program. So UW's distance learning program started at Casper College, and I am one of the earliest graduates. I'm forever grateful for that education because it taught me in rural Wyoming we can get education anywhere, especially in our long distances and our rural areas. I have 3 children. I have 2 daughters who are also born in Cheyenne. They are also University of Wyoming graduates. And I have 1 son who is he was born in Colorado, and is kind of finding his own way. I am so grateful again for this opportunity. You can look at my website, Cameron, Cameron, for Wyoming.net to learn more about me and my campaign. And I ask for your vote today. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. First question this evening. What do you think the future of fossil fuel energy is, both in the state and the nation?
I grew up watching the little shell dinosaur. I think it was shell dinosaur. So the dinosaur, it's kind of fun. Driving around Wyoming, I'm seeing these sculptures where there's like a cowboy leading a dinosaur all along the road. The future of fossil fuels is really exciting, actually. I mean, I know that we have a lot of complications, but we really have to look at what all fossil fuels we have. And then we have to look at how intelligent our Wyoming citizens are and start really doing that research about what are we going to use those fossil fuels for moving forward? How are we going to not just use our fossil fuels, but our minerals in a way that, again, brings prosperity back to our state, but also is, you know, environmentally safe and really protected to the best of our ability. I think we have a bright future with our fossil fuels. We are the energy capital of the world, of the nation, and I have every intention of working in Washington, D.C. to make sure that we absolutely stay number one in our ranking. Thank you.
Thank you. The second question, what do you think of the requirements that either the state or federal government attach to funding? When is it necessary and when should it be avoided?
Okay, so I just read this in the paper this morning, WildFile maybe. So we got funds, we got ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan funds for infrastructure. So we got funds for things like our sewer systems, our water infrastructure. And so these federal funds came into the state's job is to manage them, so the state then distributed them. Well, now we're looking at this point where those funds didn't get spent, and so now the federal government is saying, well, you've either got to redistribute them or you've got to give them back to us. And I think we have to look at that when we're talking about the federal government, because the reason why our small communities can't spend the funds is because we don't have the workers. We don't have the people in there to come in and do the infrastructure, repair the pipes, make them better. And so, of course, we have to give the money back because we weren't able to get it done to no fault of our own, but because of the worker shortage. So when we talk about what's the federal job's responsibility, it does need to hold us accountable to make sure that we are spending our money in a responsible way. I see that my time is up, so if you want to continue with that conversation, please let me know afterward. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. The next question, what do you see as the most pressing issues facing our country, and how would you address them if elected?
Freedom. I think freedom is the most pressing question that's facing our country. I think our freedom to walk in and wear a gun if we want to. I think my freedom to choose what happens with my body is in question. I think a lot of people's own bodily autonomy is in question, their freedom to make choices for themselves. And that's a fundamental right of us living in the United States, is our freedom. And I think it is in absolute question. I think right now is more a perilous time than we've ever had before. I think most of us here today, we see that as well. We know that as well. I don't want my freedoms limited. I don't want people coming at me telling me their religious right or what they think is right for me. I think that it's my individual right to choose for myself my religious beliefs, my spiritual beliefs, and what I want to do with my body. So I think, number one, we have to protect our freedom, and we have to understand that my freedom is also your freedom. So when I say I want to protect my freedom, please know that I'm going to stand up and I'm going to protect all of your freedoms as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final question, how would you work to bridge partisan divides and promote bipartisanship?
We do have a lot of divide, and as we've heard before, you know, a country divided will fail. The U.S. Constitution says that we have the government's responsibility is to ensure domestic tranquility. And that's exactly what I want to promote, is civil conversation, civil discourse, the ability to have rational and reasonable conversations with people that we disagree with, and be able to walk away from those disagreements without feeling like our lives are threatened, we're going to get shot in the back. Our families are going to be threatened. Like, let's be able to have civil discourse. Let's be able to talk about those things that are dividing us in a reasonable, rational way, and find a way to find that common ground, find a way for us to collaborate again, find a way for us to really live in the United States as we all want to, with that guarantee of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear your 2-minute closing remarks.
2 minutes closing remarks. All right. So recently I had a conversation with a colleague, a well-respected colleague. I admire her a great deal. She's very intelligent. And we were talking about the political climate here in Wyoming, and she asked me, why don't you leave? And I took a moment, and honestly, at that moment, my answer was my roots. I'm rooted in Wyoming. I am deeply rooted in Wyoming. I think that I carry that with me. And that was enough for that moment, but then as I started to think about that question a little bit more, that's not quite true. Even though I'm in Wyoming because of my roots, I could easily leave. I stay in Wyoming, and I'm here before you today, as I mentioned before, because I pledge my allegiance to the U.S. Constitution, not some arbitrary social or political clique. I believe strongly that the Constitution was written so that we might live in domestic tranquility, so that we can experience prosperity, not just for ourselves, but for our neighbors as well. These are all the reasons why you want to vote for me and not Representative Hageman. I can tell you a lot of other things that separate me from Representative Hageman, which number one includes that I'm not going to call anybody any vile names just because I don't like them. I can remain polite and cordial. Again, Cameron for Wyoming, Cameron for FOR, the word Wyoming.net. There is a contact form on there. You can reach out to me. You can contact me. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to be able to continue the conversations. More than anything, what I ask today is that you vote. We can vote early starting October 8th, so take advantage of that. Let's go out and vote, and let's show that our vote does matter. It does count. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking Kyle for coming today. Thanks for being here. If we could now have the State Representative District 29 candidates come up to the stage. All right, we will begin this evening with a 2-minute intro. We'll start with Representative Ken Pendergraft.
Hi, my name is Ken Pendergraft. That's why Cody said that. And thank you guys for putting this on. I think pretty much everybody in here knows who I am and probably already has their mind made up. But I did want to speak to a couple of things. I will tell you that my family came to Wyoming in 1878. I was born here. Was raised here, raised 3 kids here. We have 10 grandkids. My wife and I have been married 43 years. I know a little bit about commitment and getting along with people. And I have very much appreciated being your state representative for the last couple of years. Have learned a tremendous amount. And somebody asked me the other day, so, how much time does this job take? And I said all of it. So I retired so that I could devote myself entirely to doing the good job of representing you good folks. And you have my pledge that I will do everything within my power to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you. Martha Wright.
Hello, everyone. I am Martha Wright, and I'm running for House District 29. I'm running for a second time because I want to prioritize addressing the real issues affecting Wyoming, such as health care access, education, and affordable housing. Too much money and time has been wasted by some legislators on national hot-button issues at the expense of Wyoming's everyday concerns. I was born and raised in the equality state. Wyoming has always been in my heart. I grew up with the values of respect, kindness, generosity, and compassion, values that are deeply intertwined. My paternal grandparents homesteaded in Campbell County, and on my mother's side, our family history is rooted in Buffalo, where her cousin's family owned Adams Funeral Home for 3 generations. I've spent my life serving others, working in healthcare, the criminal justice system, and the last decade as a caregiver for seniors and adults with special needs. Now I'm proud to add public service by running for the State House. Caring for others and improving their lives brought me joy, and that's exactly what our legislators should do. I believe in passing legislation that lifts everyone up and benefits our citizens, not leaving anyone behind. I'm eager to bring that same dedication and heart to the State House for the people of District 29.
Thank you. And Martha, we'll have you answer the first question first. After property taxes, the number one concern identified for Sheridan County is housing availability, especially when it comes to housing for our workforce. What do you see as actions the legislature can take to help address this issue?
And Cody, would you repeat that again for me?
Sure. After property taxes, the number one concern identified for Sheridan County is housing availability, especially when it comes to housing for our workforce. What do you see as actions the legislature can take to help address this issue?
Thank you. Well, the housing issue is something that is being looked at all across the nation, actually, and it needs to be looked at with our legislators, and that even here locally, the Habitat for Humanity and the Land and Building Trust are working together to make that affordable. I've heard stories of people moving here. In fact, there was a elementary school teacher who moved here. She sold her house in the Warland area and was unable to buy a full house here, but ended up with a single wide trailer home. And we need to do better for our educators, for any worker that moves here. And the legislation needs to put that as a top priority.
Thank you, Martha. Ken.
Thank you for the question, Cody. I'm a builder by trade, and I'm helping a friend out, basically do a little bit of remodeling to do I don't know if you can say beauty shop anymore, but that's what it is. And we were going to put up a couple of partitions. I built a little knee wall out in front of there and put some plumbing in there, and then sheetrock it, finish it off, put a little flooring down. We were told when we applied that we had to get an architect to sign off on the design changes. Nothing was structural, everything was superficial. What I'm saying is that we have created this monstrosity of an overbearing government at virtually every level that sticks its nose in where it doesn't really belong. Yes, we need building codes, we need to be safe, those sorts of things. But they have vastly driven up the expense of even building.
Thank you, Ken. Ken, you'll start with this next question for us. What skills do you possess that help you find compromise on solutions when it comes to governing?
Thank you again for that question. I was a soldier for 10 years, and when you're a soldier for 10 years, or even for 1 year, you're often given a mission. And part of that mission includes working with people from diverse backgrounds who maybe don't see the world the same way you do, have a different set of priorities, a different set of values. And yet the mission is the mission. The mission doesn't change, and there's no excuse for not accomplishing the mission. And so 10 years of that gave me quite a bit of experience in actually trying to look at how somebody else sees things and understand that and learn from that on occasion, because I'm not always right, almost always. But that's the process. The legislature has been much the same thing. Anybody that gets into that legislature represents the same number of people that I do. They had to go through the same struggles to get there, and they're sharp people. And you have to give them credit for that.
Thanks, Ken. Martha?
Oh, I thought you were going to repeat the question.
I sure can.
All right.
What skills do you possess that help you find compromise on solutions when it comes to governing?
Thank you. I have found over the years that listening to other people is quite a good quality to have. And as people work together, we find out that just because we have different ideas doesn't make one side wrong. It's a matter of compromise, listening, working together, working out a solution that benefits everyone and not just a few chosen people.
Thank you. And Martha, you'll have the next question here. The state ballot measure to amend the state constitution to separate residential property as a class from all other classes of property will be on the November ballot. Do you support this? Why or why not?
Okay. And Cody, something I've not said before, I'm hard of hearing, so I got half of what you asked me.
Okay, let me try it again. I'll
Okay.
try to really
And I'm
focus
going to
on.
watch, I'm watching
That
you.
sounds good. The state ballot measure to amend the state constitution to separate residential property as a class from all other classes of property will be on the November ballot. Do you support this? Why or why not?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got the 50% that I had missed. Did that go against my time? Good, I'll keep talking. Okay. As someone who deeply believes in fairness and supporting Wyoming families, I'm in support of Amendment A. A working family in Sheridan County shouldn't be paying the same property tax rate as a multi-million-dollar corporation like Walmart. Amendment A could help keep home ownership more affordable, and that's one of the issues closest to my heart. Right now, all properties in Wyoming are taxed under the same broad categories, meaning your home is taxed the same way as large businesses. This amendment wants to change that, potentially giving homeowners a tax break by treating residential properties differently from commercial or industrial ones. I believe this amendment will create a better future for all of us, giving Wyoming families the relief they deserve and a chance to thrive.
Thank you, Martha. Ken?
I'm convinced this is a very bad idea, and I'll tell you why. The people that essentially put this tax in place back in the 80s understood that we all sink or we all swim together. They also understood that you don't tax a business. You tax the clients, the customers of that business. All those tax dollars are passed on. And what this would do, it would allow the legislature then to make a move toward a mass of people and say, we're going to give you a tax break, and then turn around to a smaller group of people, actually pitting them against the other and say, we got to make up the difference somewhere. What I'm saying is that this just gives the legislature an opportunity to monkey with your taxes anymore. Ultimately, the individual consumer, the individual homeowner, we pay all the taxes anyway. So absolutely not.
Thank you, Ken. Ken, you'll take the next question first. What are the top 3 programs and services you would eliminate from the state budget, and how would that affect Sheridan County?
I flatly can't answer that in 1 minute, but I would tell you the Wyoming Business Council would be one of the first. We have put millions of dollars into that organization, and yet our GDP has dropped since it was in there. The return on investment is extremely poor. It's also not necessarily a good question in my view, in that I don't know that there are many things that we actually have to drop. We have to look at them in perspective and in order of importance. And there are things, for example, WYDOT's budget 12 years ago was $20 million larger than it is today, and that doesn't count inflation, and that doesn't count inflation. Why is that? At the same time, the Department of Health's budget is mushroomed about twice, and now it's a couple of $2 billion. There are proper roles of government, there are improper roles of government. Those priorities need to be taken back, as I've said many times, to what the Constitution says and build from there.
Thank you, Ken. Martha.
Thank you. Actually, I don't need you to repeat that question because I don't have an answer for it. Out of everything I prepared for, that was not something that I gave some thought to. But I don't want to waste my time, and I would like to address Medicaid expansion, which I think is very important. Unfortunately, it's one more topic that we're talking about again this year. Our legislature's refusal to expand Medicaid has cost Wyoming dearly. Expanding Medicaid would have helped 19,000 of our neighbors, friends, and family members get the health care they need. It would have helped keep our rural hospitals and clinics stay open and ensured that emergency medical services are there when we need them. It would have also pumped hundreds of millions of dollars into our local economy every year, creating jobs and supporting our healthcare workers. Mr. Pendergraft says he's pro-family, but his vote against Medicaid for moms tells a different story.
Thank you.
This bill,
Thank you. So Martha, we'll have you start with closing remarks. You have 2 minutes.
okay. I wasn't watching you. My grandfather Wright served as a Wyoming state senator, a Democrat in a red state. Politics in my family and community were about respect and working together to solve problems. I'm committed to bringing that spirit back. I understand the challenges of so many in our community. I've lived paycheck to paycheck, worked low-paying jobs without health benefits, and at one point juggled 3 part-time jobs just to keep a roof over my head. I've been there. I care about you, and I listen. I won't be one to vote in lockstep with outside interests, whereas my opponent and members of the Freedom Caucus do. They have created disruption in the legislative process, leading to some of the least productive legislative sessions in Wyoming history. Their demands led to many compromises and cuts that left things like mental health, education, and public services underfunded. They have prioritized national hot-button issues at the expense of Wyoming's everyday concerns. They have pushed poorly written bills, often given to them from out-of-state organizations, that fail to address long-term challenges we are facing. I may not have the party label you typically vote for, but I am more than a letter on the ballot. My convictions and values cross party lines. I will do my homework. I will use civility and work across party lines to find solutions to the real problems that we face. Vote for Martha Wright. Let me bring your voice to Cheyenne.
Thank you, Martha. Ken?
Thank you. There are 2 sides to every story, obviously, and if you want my side of the story, there are actually hours of discussion at crosscreekmedia.com. We've talked about many of the things and why I voted the way that I voted on those in long discussions, not in 30-second or 2-minute snippets. So I would encourage you, if you really want to know what I think and why I, as was alleged, voted against families, you need to go listen and do your research. I was hoping that the question would come up, what's the greatest threat to Wyoming? Greatest threat to Wyoming is voter apathy. You can take all of these other issues that we are besieged with, whether it's inflation or a porous border or all these other things, and they actually come back to people aren't paying enough attention. We've got a lot of challenges ahead of us. It's not something that can be done flippantly or easily or without a tremendous amount of research. I know I spend many hours studying hundreds of different issues and looking at as many sides as I possibly can. But I also have a set of core values that I think most of you are very familiar with. And one of those core values is there are things that government can do and there are things that government cannot accomplish. And I'm not in favor of wasting money on something that the government cannot accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking our candidates for House District 29. So if we could now have the candidates for County Commissioner, please join us on stage. One of our candidates was not able to make it this evening, so I have a statement from Lonnie J. Wright. I'm a conservative Republican and have a strong belief in personal property rights and will continue to work hard to be fiscally responsible with our public funds. Also, I have a strong interest in the safety, security, and viability of our water resources. My wife and I have 8 children, 3 of which live in Sheridan County with their families. Because of my 7 local grandchildren, I have a strong interest in the future of our county and our state. I would ask for your vote in the November 5th general election. Thank you. We'll now start with 2-minute intro, starting with Sydney Allister.
Thank you, Cody. Thank you to the Chamber for this opportunity. Good evening, I'm Sydney Allister, and I've been in Sheridan for about 7 years. I followed my son and grandkids here. They were a military family, and moving is not an unusual event. So after 3 years, my son asked if I was ready to move with them to the East Coast. I said, no, I'm home here. I grew up on a ranch about 15 miles from town. The land provided almost everything we needed. And when I started school, it was a county school on the other side of the tracks, and I was a minority. It was there that I learned my negotiating skills that would serve me later in life. I have a double degree in criminal justice, sociology, and psychology. I have nearly 20 years in government, both local and federal. I started as an associate planner, then community development analyst, and then managed the economic development department and the redevelopment agency. I served my country in a war zone embedded with the military as a senior governance advisor with the State Department in Iraq. I'm running for county commissioner to help guide us into the future while protecting our heritage. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney. Michael Arzi.
Well, people ask, who is Mike Arzi? What do I want people to know about me? First and foremost, I am a Christ follower, a man of God. Paraphrasing Proverbs 22-1, a good name earned by honorable behavior, godly wisdom, moral courage, and personal integrity is more desirable than riches, and favor is better than silver or gold. I have a strong moral compass, value my integrity, and sometimes I get a little more passionate about my beliefs than I probably should. My word is my bond. I won't make a promise to gain votes, and then I don't plan to keep that promise. I'm a rancher. I work hard, and I promise to work hard for the citizens of Sheridan County. I've managed personnel, equipment, and budgeting. I'm a problem solver and a student of the principles of cause and effect. I can successfully implement those qualities into the office of county commissioner. I'm running because I'm concerned over the massive tax increases in the last 4 years. They're up 57%, as well as an increase of 79% in general fund spending. I'm dedicated to accomplishing more with what you have, not spending money or time unnecessarily. I am a constitutionally conservative Republican, adhering to the Bill of Rights. I am currently the vice chair of the Republican Party of Sheridan County. It is important to be fiscally responsible, and it is incumbent. Are you saying stop? Oh, okay. It is important to be physically responsible, and it is incumbent upon county commissioners to be available to the citizens, not only just to listen, but to actually hear their concerns and actively follow up through a positive resolution. I'm a lifelong Wyoming resident, born in Sheridan, and I have lived here for the last 45 years. And I appreciate your vote. Thank you. And also, thank you guys for putting this on. I forgot to mention that. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Mike, you'll start the first question. Based on your review of the current and previous county budgets, are there items that you believe should not have been funded and why?
Yeah, that goes right back to my opening statement. You know, you live within your budget, you live within your means. There's things that were actually there that I just shook my head when I was in some of the budget meetings. It was, you got to be kidding me, $40,000 for a riding lawnmower for the library. I'm like, no, we don't do things like that. That's not the way things are supposed to do. And then there's other areas in the county that do need things, and I've been a proponent for it, and those things just get set on the side. And so, yeah, there's definitely some issues there. There's some cleaning up that needs done. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Sydney.
I don't know yet what needs to be done. I haven't had the opportunity to do, I mean, I've looked at the budgets, and I'm not going to say that do we need a break area for the county employees that cost a lot of money? So when I'm elected, I will make sure that we don't spend more than what we need to spend.
Thank you, Sydney. Sydney, you'll be the first to answer this next question. Why do you think the county citizens have regularly supported fifth and sixth penny taxes over the past 20 plus years, and what do you think are the best uses for these funds?
Are you speaking about the cap tax?
Yeah, the fifth and sixth penny taxes, yes.
Okay. The cap tax is a predetermined amount based on infrastructure needs. The 2024 renewal proposal is right at $42 million over the next 8 years. The cap tax funds are used for infrastructure that we need, and it's used to leverage for additional grants. The projects like replacing the water lines in Ranchester and Claremont that are 50 years old. The voters of Sheridan County have renewed this tax, as you say, since 1989. It is the least impactful funding device to ensure that our infrastructure projects are completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney. Mike?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. You don't have to repeat it. I agree to a certain extent about the cap tax. As far as infrastructure for the outlying communities around this area, that's how they get things done, and that's something that needs done. What I will add to that, though, is that it's important and imperative that the way that it is structured needs to stay that way. We can't be taking money out of one cookie jar and putting it into another. That's very important, because we've seen some of that happen in the past too. And we want to make sure that that stays where it is allocated to these communities that need it. That's where I'm coming from on that one. And that's it.
Thank you, Mike. Mike, you'll answer the first or the next question for us. Question 3, what skills do you possess that help you find compromise on solution when it comes to governing?
Okay, so I had a crew once that I had to have an interpreter, although I do speak some Spanish. I had a crew of about 34 people working under me, and none of them spoke English. You get real good at interpretation, and you get real good at compromise. You have to. And I don't think that there's that much difference in talking to them as it would be talking to someone else. You have to have a little give and you have to have a little take, but you cannot sacrifice your moral compass. That's the important thing. You have to stay true to yourself, true to your moral compass, and true to the reasons why you are actually representing the people of Sheridan County.
Thank you, Mike. Excuse me, Sydney?
As I said, my being a minority gave me the skills of negotiation so that I didn't get beat up in the bathroom at recess. I worked for 3 cities, and it always seemed like I was the one that they sent to negotiate. And I was always successful. When I was in Iraq, I was the only woman, and I had to negotiate with feudal lords that didn't like women to be in any power positions. But I was able to get things done, and I will use those skills.
Thank you, Sydney. So, Sydney, you'll now answer the final question we have this evening. From your reading of the Sheridan County Comprehensive Land Use Plan, aside from roads and bridges, what are the most pressing needs for infrastructure and capital projects?
Well, I've spoken to all of the department heads, the airport, the sheriff's, planning and engineering, and they all have their needs. You know, the airport is growing, and it's now become sort of a safety issue, and they need to expand their embarking areas, and they need a new landing field, and they need some repairs. Well, it's much easier to do repairs than rehabilitation. So maybe we need to concentrate on what we can fix now instead of having to spend $4.8 million, of which Sheridan would only have to pay $200,000. But I would rather repair something than have to rehabilitate. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney. Yeah, I sure will. From your reading of the Sheridan County Comprehensive Land Use Plan, aside from roads and bridges, what are the most pressing needs for infrastructure and capital projects?
Well, I believe that, well, number one is, the airport's expansion. They got growing pains up there. We got to help them out a little bit. The other part, town of Sheridan's got growing pains too, as far as transportation here and there. I guess we're going to have a meeting on that coming up Thursday night on City of Sheridan's plan on transportation. I'll be attending that. I think it's important that we, disperse a lot. I'm not saying that I'm not in favor, or not in favor of one way or the other of outer loops or stuff like that. But I am saying that we do definitely have a traffic problem. We are the #1 most busiest coffee avenue in the state of Wyoming, so we got to do something with that. We got to work with YDOT and see if we can get some of the YDOT projects resurrected that should be in Sheridan County. We don't have any. Sorry about that.
Thank you. We'll now hear closing 2-minute comments. We'll begin with Michael Arzi.
Sheridan County is growing at an exponential rate. In my opinion, new residents have an obligation to assimilate into the community and not make long-term residents feel disenfranchised. We are all responsible for working together and to be diligent in preserving our quality of life. This coming November, you voters can have your voice heard in Sheridan County. I urge you to carefully research candidates. If you are voting Republican, please don't vote just because they have an R behind their name. How long have they been Republicans? Do they represent Republican conservative values, or did they change parties just to get your vote? Please check into the positions of their issues. Do they have a voting record or a track record that best represents your interests? The words integrity, transparency, and trust must be delivered and not misused. I am not a tax and spend candidate. I believe citizens should have more input and control on how their taxes are spent. I value and will consider a stakeholder's input to help me to make wise and informed decisions. In my opinion, the commissioner meetings should be held where and when citizens can attend. Eventually, the normal meetings should be video recorded, posted, and available for anyone who cannot attend these meetings. Recordings of the meetings will hold the commissioners accountable for their comments and decisions. I would consider it an honor and a privilege to serve Sheridan County in the office of County Commissioner. I pledge to be truthful and transparent, listen to the constituents, and represent your interests in county government. Wyoming is what America used to be. Let's keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Sydney Allister.
In closing, I wanted to reiterate my commitment to being a county commissioner, to be responsive, to listen, and to act, who will bring people together. I'm not just running for office, I'm running to make a difference. I believe in using my experience and my passion for this community to ensure that every tax dollar is spent wisely and every citizen has a voice, whether it's advocating for affordable housing, land use, or levy taxes. I will work tirelessly to bridge the gap and make sure our county is the place where everyone can thrive. Together, we can build the future that reflects the values and the needs of our citizens. Thank you for your time, and I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking our county commissioner candidates. We will now ask our candidate from Town of Dayton Council member to please join us on stage. We'll begin by reading a statement from Robert Alley, who was not able to make it this evening. My name is Bob Alley, and I am a candidate for councilman for the greater town of Dayton. I previously served 12 years as councilman for Dayton under Mayor Bob Wood. I have been back on the council now for 2 years. I believe our town is on the right train, and I would be honored to serve another 4 years. I grew up in Dayton and have lived here all my life, except for a brief 2-year period when I thought I needed to be closer to my job. I would like to continue servicing the people of Dayton and listening to their concerns and opinions. I would like to continue to be part of the process to keep Dayton going in the direction I believe is the right direction. We have some big issues on the horizon that I would like to be a part of, including an update on our water treatment plant, repaving some streets, and keeping our raw water system working as good as it has been. Thank you for your support. Bob Alley. We'll now hear from the other candidate for Town of Dayton Council Member, Keith Reichert. Keith, if you would give us your 2-minute opening statement.
Okay, I too, born and raised in Dayton. I was born here in the Sheridan Memorial Hospital, and I've had the opportunity to live here my whole life. I've had the opportunity to work for Sheridan County School District 1 for 38 years. So I've been involved with our community. I did leave for a couple years as well to attend college in Utah, where I ended up joining the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, where I did and have and still do many opportunities to serve in that organization, both in the administrative positions and ministering positions. I have had 4 years of generations that lived in Dayton, Wyoming. My grandfather served as mayor in the 40s and has left a legacy for the things he did in the area. I also have had many opportunities to serve our community. Maybe some of you have recognized me being on the basketball court. I know I kind of wince when Cody comes and we maybe talk about Frank when he played high school basketball. But I love the game of basketball. I love officiating. I've had to learn a lot of skill sets there that help with diffusing hot situations perhaps, and to be in the spotlight at times to make the right and proper decisions. I am a father of 4, a grandfather of 9, and unfortunately none of my children or grandchildren live very close, but they are on just about opposite ends of the United States, so I do get some opportunity to travel from time to time. I do have a lot of hobbies, which include hunting, fishing, softball, and pickleball. Thanks.
Thank you, Keith. The first question this evening, how would you answer constituents who asked you, who are we as Dayton?
Dayton is a unique city. We have small city issues where we can sometimes be cliquish. We kind of have a good old boy system as well. That makes it sometimes difficult to break into that and to serve in different capacities. Some are, as was discussed earlier tonight, we talk about a lot of new people that move in. We welcome those people in, just maybe not their bad ideas. We'd like to try to restore the things that Dayton has lost. We have struggled a little bit with leadership in the past decade or so. We've had issues that have brought hardship upon some people, and fairness is sometimes left out, or equity maybe more so than fairness has been left out and not honored as it should be.
Thank you. The next question, what are the 3 things you value most about Dayton?
I think number one is the smallness of the town. I can remember just a few short years ago, we could sit at our kitchen table and we could conduct our own census, knowing each and every person, how many lived in their family. We could probably even count their cats and dogs too. That now has kind of dissipated in our town. But we do have a lot of closeness with ideas in promoting activities for each of our individual groups. I am a proponent of the Tongue River Valley Pathway. I serve on that committee as well. And I do endorse the Pathway project that we're trying to get between Dayton and Ranchester. Is that 2, 3? But I do enjoy the quietness of the town. There are As any town, we do have some disappointing activities and things that have happened over the years, which does break our hearts.
Thank you. The next question, what one area in the budget needs more resources and what one area needs less?
At our budget meeting is quite interesting. We don't do line item budgeting at the town level. In fact, our last budgeting meeting, it was, do we have any questions about the budget? If there's not, let's pass it. I don't think that's probably the right way to go about budgeting the funds for our town. If not knowing where money is needed, where it should go, what it's earmarked for or should be earmarked for. Like I said, there's funds available through the state, through YDOT, to fund our pathway project. Our current town council right now is 100% against it. Ranchester is shouldering that effort in itself right now. And Dayton should step up and promote that to help attract people to come to our small community and support our businesses that we do have in Dayton.
Thank you. And the final question, if the capital facilities tax doesn't pass, how will you address needed infrastructure improvements?
I have voted in the past against the cap tax. After doing some serious research, I see this as a necessary tax. I think it's fair and equitable for our communities. So I will be voting for that this year. If we don't have it, it will tighten our belt in all areas of our budget in Dayton. And we'll have to take a hard look at the things that we need to prioritize in Dayton and that we'll need to try to find other ways for funding. There's so much money out there federally, state-wise, that we can apply for. We just need to step forward, put forth our effort to make that money come to our little community if we are not to have the cap tax.
Thank you. You now have 2 minutes for closing remarks.
As I've spoken a little bit about our community and some of the things that have happened there, we do have a council now that I think, unfortunately, kind of rubber stamp whatever our mayor says, right, wrong, or indifferent. I've always been a man of a representation of people and hear the voice of the people of our community. I would be that voice. I would also like to support our regulations and our ordinances that we have in town. We just recently had a meeting on, a work study meeting on, I believe it's titled 17, about rezoning. And after we had a committee formulated and volunteers worked on that for nearly 6 years, it was presented to our town council, and some odd comments, in my opinion, were made that we can do whatever we want, and we don't have to have ordinances that govern us. And we know what happens, and we've experienced that in Dayton over the last decade when we just have someone who just says, we don't need ordinances, we don't need to follow them, and we'll make our own. There's ways to go ahead and to change those ordinances, but there's a specific way to go if we don't like them or if they're no longer in use to our community. But we do need, for now, to follow those ordinances, and that is fair and equitable to everyone so that we're all on the same page. We know what we can do, we know what we can't do, and not just make a blanket statement, well, I'm going to go ahead and do whatever I want anyway. There's a lot of work and effort that goes on with a lot of people, and they've accepted that position to do that. One last thing is I would like to endorse Mayor Rich Bridger for Sheridan. He's been a great friend of mine for over almost 50 years now. Great man. I don't think you could find anyone better.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking our candidate for Dayton Council Member. If we could now have the candidates for our Town of Manchester council members join us on stage. We have two candidates that weren't able to make it this evening, but asked us to read statements. The first is from Amber Miles Smith. Hello, I'm Amber Miles Smith. I am running for the Manchester Town Council. I apologize for not being there in person. I grew up in the Tongue River Valley, graduating from Tongue River High School in 1997. I'm employed with the Tongue River Valley Community Center, and I love that I get to see so many familiar faces and new faces using both the facilities in the valley each and every day. I'm running for town council to be the voice. I'm running for the council because I feel some things are getting overlooked in our community. Growth is going to happen, but we need to do it for the positive of our community. Before you can grow, you have to make sure that what you have currently is taken care of and working so that it can support the new growth of the community. I also feel that as the Tongue River Valley, there are things that Manchester and Dayton could work together on. For example, the pool in Dayton. The pool is located in Dayton, yes, but it facilitates kids and families from both communities and surrounding areas. We might be separated by 5 miles, but we are still the Tongue River Valley. Thank you for your time, and I hope to have your vote in November. Next statement is from Kathy Stevens. My name is Kathy Stevens. I have lived in Manchester for almost 30 years and have the privilege of working for the town of Manchester for 19 years as the deputy clerk. I am familiar with our local ordinances, Wyoming statutes, procedures for new development, and general guidelines for safety and maintaining quality of life for all residents. I have maintained a continued interest in our community and will always do my best to represent the residents of Manchester in a positive manner. As a council member, I will research, understand, and discuss any agenda item prior to making an informed decision that will affect the town of Manchester in a positive manner and continue to move the town forward. Thank you. And we're joined this evening by Bill Henderson. So, Bill, if you'd like to give your opening 2-minute remarks.
All right. This is a little daunting, actually. I'm Bill Henderson. I grew up in Montana on a ranch. All of my life there, except for 4 years in the Marine Corps. Ranched until Dad sold out. I went back to school. Ended up as a teacher. I did a little stint in between that as a deputy in Montana. I came down here teaching because Wyoming paid more than Montana. You paid $18,000 a year. So I made the big money and moved here. I taught for almost 10 years, and I was about 40 when I went back to school. So I taught for almost 10 years and then came down with a little cancer, and that sort of put me out of that. I have worked with developmentally disabled here basically for the last 23 years, I guess. I've been down here for 25 years. I've been out in Manchester for 21 years now. I'm on the Planning Commission out there, been about 2 years, and I've enjoyed that. We're going under all the ordinances and whatnot now, most of them are put in place in like 1957, so we're upgrading some of that. That'll do for now, thanks.
Great. Thanks, Bill. The first question this evening for you, what would you tell constituents who asked you, who are we as Manchester?
Moved into Manchester, bought a little house out there 21 years ago this year. It was just a small little town, pretty noisy from all the trains. They did shut one of the crossings down, and that has really made a big difference. It is a small, quiet, friendly little town. I have been right at home living out there, coming from a ranching community. I'm not really a town person, but Ranchester has been home. It's a nice place to be. Come visit.
Great. Thanks, Bill. The next question. Ranchester is one of the fastest growing communities in the state. What is your opinion about the growth, and how do you think the growth should be managed?
Well, it has grown almost half again as much in the 20 years I've been out there. And we have 3 housing developments around. We filled them up, was it 200 houses, give or take? So that's a lot of people, 200 houses. It is growing a lot. My hope is that we keep going on what we're doing. I think it's been a really good job. I've enjoyed what I've seen, since Pete has been in charge out there. I thought Cliff did all right. Things have changed and kind of grown with it. We need to keep that going. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. The next question. What do you know about the role of taxes in Ranchester's budget, and what services would you cut if taxes were cut?
I don't know that I would cut any. I may not know as much as I would like to really make a sound statement on that. What would I cut? I don't believe I've delved into it far enough to really tell you what I think is ridiculous. I don't. It seems to me, just by being on the commission and being around what I've seen, the growth over the last 20 years is we're doing pretty darn good for a small town. I don't know of anything that I would cut.
Thank you, Bill. The last question this evening. What will be your role on the town council, and how have you prepared for that role?
Well, the role would be to keep growing with the amount of people that are coming. There's a great deal of growth to be had here soon, maybe even double in size in the next few years. We need to be looking forward, not looking back. We need to, forget about whatever happened 20 years ago and move forward. You can save that other one. I'm done. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. So I'd now like to hear your closing 2-minute remarks.
Like I say, I've ranched. I was a deputy, stint in the Marine Corps, teacher. I've been in service all my life, it seems like. I had a little problem with alcohol about 40 years ago, 47 actually, and through that I have recovered from that as best, up to this point, doing well. And service is the one thing that has been my legacy, I guess. I have worked with developmentally disabled for the last 25 years since I've been down here. And that has taught me more about myself than it has about anything else. I bring a vast knowledge for an old beggar, and I would like to pass that on to the town as best I can. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Please join me in thanking our candidate for Ranchester council member. Now ask our candidate for Sheridan mayor to join us on the stage. Thanks, Karen. All right. Mayor Rich Bridger, if you'd like to start off and give us your 2-minute opening remarks.
Good evening, and first I want to thank the Chamber and the YO Theater for hosting the event and for all that you do. And for all of you that are attending, I appreciate you as well. But over the past 4 years, I've had the privilege of serving as your mayor. During my tenure, we have seen significant advancements in infrastructure, economic development, and community engagement. Our city has flourished, and I'm proud to have played a role in fostering a thriving environment for all residents. We've invested in essential projects that enhance the quality of life, including improved public spaces, upgraded utilities, and initiatives supporting local business. Before becoming mayor, I served as a dedicated city council member for 4 years, and this experience provided me with valuable insights into the intricate workings of the local government. It allowed me to understand the unique needs of our community and laid the foundation for effective leadership that I bring to the mayor's office. Prior to my time on city council, I devoted 12 years to serving on the local school board, and education has always been close to my heart, and I am proud of the contributions we made to ensure high-quality education for the young minds of our community. Now, as we look to the future, my commitment remains steadfast. I am dedicated to continuing the work we started, addressing the evolving needs of our community, and ensuring that the Sheridan remains a vibrant and inclusive place to call home. And I am grateful for the trust you have placed in me over the years, and I humbly ask for your support once more. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. The first question this evening, how do you prioritize what goes on the council agendas?
You know, that's kind of done in committee. Every Tuesday I meet with my department heads. We talk about the things that we have upcoming, those things that are important, those things that are time sensitive. When we create that agenda, it's done with the idea that there's some things that we need to get done immediately, other things we might be able to put off for a while. But in general, it's done as a group consensus. I don't think that I need to make that decision all by myself. I have department heads who kind of know what they're doing, and I sort of lean on them for their information and their input, and together we form an agenda that we bring to the council.
Thanks, Rich. The next question, what are the characteristics of an effectively run meeting, and how will you accomplish that?
Well, I think an effectively run meeting needs to have a purpose. It needs to have a set state of goals that you want to get to. I don't like just meandering around and discussing various things with no closure or no intent of where we're going to get to finish the conversation. I think it also has to have some sort of import to it. I don't like to meet just to meet. So if I'm meeting with somebody, I want it to have intent, I want it to have purpose, I want it to serve as a benefit to the city and the people of Sheridan.
Thank you. How would you allow differing viewpoints to be voiced while ensuring civility in the process?
Well, I don't allow that really, so no, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I think we all have varying viewpoints a lot of the time. Some of it we have consensus, but there's always a different viewpoint, and I think you need to be respectful of that viewpoint, and you need to not just blow it off and disregard it entirely, because sometimes that varying viewpoint is worthwhile and it's worth considering, or it's something aspect that you hadn't thought of beforehand, and that it is important and that you like that input. So I don't think divulging diverging attitudes or ideas are a bad thing. In fact, I think the more you bring to the table, the better product you get at the end.
Thank you, Rich. So the final question this evening, how would you answer constituents who asked you, who are we as Sheridan?
I think we as Sheridan are just a proud group of Western people. We are nice, we're humble. I love this community, I love being a part of it. I go out every day and I see people that I know, and I'm glad I live here. I'm glad I live in this beautiful community that I'm happy to call home, and I think anybody who lives here probably has a sense of pride that I have, that you were lucky enough to end up in Sheridan.
Thanks, Rich. We'll now hear your closing 2-minute remarks.
Okay, my closing statement. First, I want to thank the Sheridan County Chamber and the WYO Theater for hosting this event. The opportunity to meet and get better acquainted is always beneficial. It seems that the world gets a bit more out of kilter on a daily basis. But my devotion to our community remains steadfast. I wake up every day with an optimistic attitude towards the future and an appreciation for our wonderful community. The key word, I believe, is stewardship. From creating sliding plan investment fees based on the scope of the project in an effort to reduce building costs, to adjusting employee compensation to maintain staff, to new enterprise software from the day-to-day operations of the city, to major renovations to infrastructure such as those at North Heights and Tara Turner Avenue, to future large projects like the renovation of our South Downtown, I remain motivated and committed to our town. As a previous member of a local school board and a current member of City Council, I have been fortunate enough to serve in some meaningful capacity. I now ask you again for your vote on November 5th so that I can continue your work on your behalf. As I stated previously, my commitment to Sheridan remains steadfast. I believe that together we can continue to keep Sheridan a great place to call home, and I thank you very much for inviting me here tonight.
Thank you, Rich. Please join me in thanking our candidate for City of Sheridan Mayor.
Yeah. I can't leave without a really bad joke. What do you call a cleaning skeleton? The Grim Sweeper. Now I'm done.
We'd now ask the candidates for City of Sheridan Council member to join us up on stage. All right, we'll now get to hear from our candidates for City of Sheridan Council member. We'll start with our 2-minute intro, starting with Steve Brantz.
Oh, thank you very much. Just drinking my water. Well, anyway, just for a little introduction, my name is Steve Brantz. I'm a Sheridan native. I was born here, obviously, that's what makes you a native. A third generation, my grandparents came from Poland, immigrated here and ended up at Monarch. Well, through that union, my father was born, and after World War II, he came home and went to a dance at Acme, I guess it was called Bruno's, and met a young lady that I soon called Mom. Well, anyway, that's where my family came from, third generation. They all rest from their labors now at the cemetery, which is sad, but that's life. And only say this, not that I'm not any better than anyone else as a councilman, but it shows you how deep my roots are into this community. I attended Sheridan High School, Sheridan College, Sheridan Elementary Schools also. I worked 35 years for the Highway Department, which now they call the Transportation Department, on Brundage Lane. I raised 2 boys as a single father. Now I have grandchildren. However, they were out of state. Like so many children, there's no work for them here in Wyoming. Hopefully things will change. They can come back, but not now. I live in the first house I ever bought 45 years ago. I bought a house on Burkett. And I've refinanced it a few times, obviously, because that's what we do in America. We get it almost paid off and then we refinance it. So anyway, I've had one house, but like 3 mortgages. I was born in '57, so that makes me 67 right now, still young enough to serve. I've served on various boards and committees in Sheridan, and presently I'm completing my 8th year on City Council. And the reason is because I value this community and I want to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Bev Lightnum.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bev Lightnum, and I'm honored to be here today. I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting this event. My family has lived in Sheridan for 44 years, where we raised our 4 children, and we are lucky enough to have 2 of our grandchildren live here. One of my top priorities is supporting our senior community. Our seniors have contributed so much to our society, and it's crucial that we honor and support them through dedicated initiatives. Another priority of mine is public safety. It is a fundamental right of every citizen, and my commitment is to create a secure environment for all. This means prioritizing funding for our police, fire, and water treatment departments. Another key focus is maintaining our infrastructure to support growth and improve quality of life. I recommend projects that include upgrading our roads, bridges, and water and sewer systems. It is important to grow authentically on our terms through careful planned development that balances growth with community needs. I'm committed to making our city government more accessible and transparent through focus groups, surveys, online feedback forms, and neighborhood meetings, to name a few. Together, we can ensure that our decisions reflect the needs and desires of all of our residents. Through collaboration, community, and compassion, I believe we can tackle the challenges ahead. By fostering open dialogue and ensuring transparency, we can build trust and work together to shape a future that benefits all of us. Thank you for your support, and let's keep moving forward.
Thank you. Scott Van Dorsten.
I'm Scott Van Dorsten. I'm a small business owner here in Sheridan. I own my own gunsmithing business. I'm also an elder at the Emmanuel Lutheran Church. I'm also the head of the youth group there. I'm a 2-time political refugee, having escaped California and Colorado. I've seen firsthand what happens when local governments, small governments, start going off the rails, start getting overbloated with bureaucratic processes and overtaxing and overspending. I'm running for city council because I've seen that start to happen here in Sheridan, and it's not good. Wyoming is my Alamo. This is where I came for freedom, and I don't want to lose it here. So that's what I'm running for city council for.
Thank you. Jack Wood.
Yeah, I'm Jack Wood. First, I want to apologize if you're getting blinded from the reflection off my head. I'm sorry. I moved here a few years ago. Family's been here since 1932, ranchers and business owners. My wife and I got very involved with volunteer work through the community. We care about Sheridan a lot. I ran a couple years ago, missed it by 48 votes. I don't plan on missing it this year. I'm going to do what I can to get in because I really care about the community and want to be there to help it grow and be financially responsible for what we do. I've been an ambassador for 8 years, been the vice chair for 3 years. I'm on the fair board. I was on Habitat board for a while, do a lot of volunteer work for the community. Something I just got was the AARP Andrus Award for the main volunteer for the whole state of Wyoming. That also includes my wife, who we do basically everything together. Sheridan is a unique community. They're one of the greatest communities in this city, or this state. It's hard to beat Sheridan. People ask me where you're from. I don't say Wyoming. I say Sheridan, Wyoming. We have to be responsible on our infrastructure. We got to make sure that we do what's right. Our sewer and water systems are very important. And like Bev was saying, our police departments, we have to make sure they're strong and fully staffed. I definitely will back them 100%. And our seniors and veterans, this whole community is what it's all about. And since all my years of volunteering and stuff, I've learned to listen. And that's one of the biggest things. You have to listen to people. And let's work together and try and bring this community back to where it was, and we can do that.
Thank you. So Jack, you'll start off with the first question for us. So what would you tell constituents who ask you, who are we as Sheridan?
One of the greatest communities in the state. I think we are, number one, we're a leader. That's what I think is Sheridan. We're a leader in what we do for this state. People say that you're just going to be another Jackson Hole, and I say never happen. Jackson Hole wishes they were going to be a Sheridan. We have people here that love this community. We stand for what we mean, and we are, I think, the guiding light of what Wyoming wants this state to be and this country to be. And I think people look at us, and that's why they come here, because they hear so much about us and how great we are. We have good people here, family people that want to stay together, and I think we represent family, country, and God.
Thanks, Jack. Steve.
What's nice about Sheridan is your neighbors become your friends really quick, and then your friends become your family. It wasn't until a few years ago I didn't lock my house, and the reason I didn't lock it, I just didn't know where the key was. But I was, trusting, because we have good neighbors. We have neighbors that watch out for each other. Move into a neighborhood, neighbors bring a loaf of bread over and say, welcome to the neighborhood. It's something you don't see in a lot of communities. Sheridan still has a lot going for itself. One thing you can find out about Sheridan is have a need. A while back we had a child that got hurt. The community came together for that child. Things like that happen in this community. When there's a need, people come together. Sheridan is unique, and we have to remember that, and it's made up of people just like you in the audience that are caring, and I'm glad to be part of this community.
Thanks, Steve. Bev.
One of the things that I love about Sheridan, and I'm a South Dakota transplant, is its multicultural diversity. All the events that we have, Don King Days, YO Rodeo, Bighorn Mountain Run, the arts and cultural events that we have here is unsurpassing to any other community. And this community does help out, just like Steve said. Think back to when we lost Officer Krinke. The entire community came together to honor him and to help that family out and to help those that were closest to him, our police department. This community comes together when it needs to. In a crisis, we don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat, white, black, reptilian, whatever. We come together for one another, and that's what makes this community the best.
Thanks, Bev. Scott.
It's an interesting question. I never really thought of identifying a people based on where they live. I mean, we have such a diverse populace here in Sheridan. I mean, just about any type of walks of life, you've got them here in Sheridan. I can tell you one of the things that made me fall in love with this place almost right away. When I moved here, I lived above the Century 21 building, an apartment up there. And every day I went to work, for about 3 months, there was a bicycle that was parked right next to the dumpster for that building. I think they were trying to throw it away, but it wasn't in the dumpster, so for 3 months it sat there, and nobody touched it. places where I've lived and where I come from, that wouldn't happen, and that's what made me fall in love with Sheridan.
Thanks, Scott. Scott, we'll have you answer the next question first. As Sheridan's population increases, how would you address the increased flow of traffic?
That's like one of the most hot button items right now, because you're talking about like the corridor project and all that. We do have to find other routes around Sheridan. We have to do that. We have to talk to the people that it's going to affect on both sides, both positive and negative. And we got to make a good plan to facilitate that in bruising as few noses as possible in the process. There's no good solid plan. We're just going to have to work at it and try to find compromises.
Thanks, Scott. Jack?
Yeah, I think we need to definitely look at the way the flow's going, and I know a lot of people want a traffic light down at Brendage Lane and Bighorn for sure, and I'm definitely for that. The Beltway, we need something on that backside. Exactly where it's designed right now, I'm not too sure if I'm for it, but I do feel we need something back in the backside there, because we need another major road for our hospital. We only have one way in, one way out. Then when somebody's coming from Manchester, Dayton, they've got to go down Main Street and go up Fifth Street. It'd save some lives if we had a shorter route on the backside to where they could get over there sooner. Plus, it would take traffic off Main Street. So,
Thanks, Jack. Steve?
You know, I kind of smiled at that question because I remember years ago when Copping was a 2-lane highway and the highway department came in and tore the trees out and made a 4-lane. The community just went nuts. That was the worst thing they could have ever done. They took those beautiful trees out. Looking back on it now, what would we have now if we had a 2-lane? So when we change traffic patterns and we change ideas of where the traffic is going to go, it's never easy. People do not like that, and I understand that. That's why we have to do it very systematically, like through the highway department. Everything we do has a consequence. You put up a stop sign here, you slow traffic down over here. There's no quick fix, but it has to start soon. Yeah, we have a lot of traffic in Sheridan, but you know what? The old saying goes, the bigger you get, the more traffic you're gonna have. We'll try to minimize it, but the reality is we just have more traffic.
Thanks, Steve. Bev?
So we do have a transportation plan, but it's outdated. It was last reviewed in 2009, and that's why it's being brought back forward for review and input from the public. Before we can actually look at a corridor project or changing patterns or anything, we do need to have a study. We need to have a study that says, is this the best place for a West Belt Loop? Will it actually eliminate our issues? And so I'm in favor of having that study because we don't have the expertise here right now to take care of that. And then, unfortunately, we may not be able to appease everyone in Sheridan, but we have to look at what is the greater good, what will benefit the majority of people.
Thanks, Bev. Bev, we'll have you answer this next question first. What are 3 things you value most about Sheridan?
Well, that was kind of like the first question you just asked. Again, community. You can't overlook the care and concern and the compassion that this community puts forward. I also like the forward thinking that our leaders have demonstrated. If you're not moving forward, you're falling back. And so we always need to look forward to the future. And how can we ignore the beauty of Sheridan and the mountains and what it offers us?
Thanks, Bev. Scott?
3 things. Well, I got to say I love how quiet the town is. It's definitely a plus to me. I like a good quiet town. I got to say, I love the work ethic of the people here. Everywhere I go, I have failed to find anybody that's not willing to work hard to accomplish something, and that really speaks a lot towards the town. Yeah, the third thing. Well, I tell you, I love the mix of city and rural things that we have here. I love taking a drive out and seeing the ranches and the farms and stuff like that and all the wildlife, and I just think it's a great mix of everything that you could possibly want.
Thanks, Scott. Jack?
Well, I think definitely the people here, it's just great to drive down the road and have, like I always tell my son, I said, we have drive-by wavings, you have drive-by shootings. So, I mean, the people here are fantastic. The Bighorn Mountains, the animals, I could just go sit and watch the animals, and if you ever see moose and walk around and stuff, I'd sit there all day and watch that. So I think the people, the Bighorn Mountains and the animals here are just something that a lot of people just don't have and get to enjoy, and we have it.
Thanks, Jack. Steve?
First thing I'd like to say is I'm really grateful for the schools. Schools equate to children. Children mean a future. If we don't have children in this community, we're in trouble. I drive school bus part-time, a regular route, and I also do activities. I do football teams to Laramie, et cetera, go Bronx, okay? But that's important. It's important to have schools and children. I also think what's really good about our community is we have a good senior center, a hub. It's under attack. Right now, I'll tell you, it's under attack. A lot of people that are running for certain political offices do not believe that the hub should be financed through taxpayers' money. Something to be thoughtful when you go to the ballot box. But I'm thankful that we have the hub for the seniors, and I'm glad for the seniors. And in general, it's just the people. We have a community where, again, like I said, you can see people and you can say hi on the street. You go to some cities, people won't even say hi to you. They look at the pavement. In Sheridan, they go hi. I like that.
Thanks, Steve. Steve, we'll have you start out answering the final question of the evening. What one area in the budget needs more resources, and what one area has plentiful resources or too much?
Well, you know, right now, when you look at the city of Sheridan, we provide services. That's what we do. We provide services. We do not sit down and say, this is what we're going to tax you. That's done at the legislative level. So when somebody says, well, Sheridan, you know, I'm going to run for city council because I'm against taxes. This is not where you need to be. So anyway, my one good thing that I really think we should remember is we cannot take away things like fire or police protection. I'm just taking this off the top of my head. If it ever got push comes to shove, you could do things like garbage collection every 10 days. You could do things like that, or you could mow the cemetery once every month instead of every 3 weeks. But we would not do anything to jeopardize the safety of this community.
Thank you, Steve. Bev?
Well, the first order of government is protection of its people. So I always want to see public safety, fire, police, water treatment, wastewater plant. I want to see those departments fully funded with the appropriate equipment and personnel that they need. Yes, will government grow as we grow? But we can do that in a responsible manner. And if you have the need for a police or a fireman, you hope that you never do, but if you live on the outskirts of town, let's make sure that we've got enough people and the equipment to get there, save your life, and minimize the damage. The other thing is our infrastructure. We have got to continue our proper maintenance and repair of our roads and bridges, our water and sewer lines. Those are the two tantamount areas that I would support.
Thanks, Bev. Scott?
Repeat that question real quick.
Sure. What one area in the budget needs more resources, and what one area has plentiful or too much resource?
Well, I always think that, you know, the fire department and the police departments are two areas where always need more funding. Training is critical to these two positions, and you can never get enough of it. As far as what has too much funding, well, I mean, there's a whole lot that has too much funding. I mean, we're spending $5.5 million on a water park where we could have just spent maybe around $2 million on renovating the pool. So it seems like that we have a lot of money going to places we don't need them. We're spending $500,000 on not-for-profits here in Sheridan. Sheridan is quickly becoming the place that says, hey, come to Sheridan, create a not-for-profit, we're going to give you taxpayer dollars. These are things that are way, way outside of what the city is supposed to be doing. They get around it by looking for legal loopholes instead of actually following laws that are in place.
Thanks, Scott. Jack?
I think Bev is right too, is that our fire department, police departments, our infrastructure is something that I feel we definitely don't need to cut at all, and we probably should add to them. We'll back our police departments 100%. They're not even fully funded yet, or fully staffed yet, and we need to get that done. As far as cutting something, if I had to cut something, I would definitely look at the money given to nonprofits and see which ones can do without and which ones that we need to help. And the ones that we need to help, I think, are Goose Creek Transit, the hub, and I think Habitat Building's about the only ones building houses that people can afford. So yeah, I think those would be the ones I would take care of and the ones I would look at to see if we could cut back.
Thanks, Jack. We'll now hear 2-minute closing remarks, starting with Jack Wood.
Oh. All right, 2 minutes. All right, I'm running because I really feel that I can do a good job. I really care about this community. I've been to a lot of the meetings. What I've done in volunteer work and stuff has really helped me understand what's going on in the community. We are growing. To grow, you have to grow to be healthy, and we are very good, healthy, good position. Our taxes are 6% sales tax is one of the lowest in the country, not the state, the country. And we're good right there. We don't need to raise our sales tax. We just leave it right where it's at. It works for us. Now, if we have to do a few changes on it, we can, but we don't need to be cutting any taxes. I feel that our infrastructure is very important. Our water and sewer system is really important. The landfill, we really need to watch those and make sure that we have clean water and sewer system. I'd like to see us get away from a lot of septic tanks and start using the sewer systems. If we have to build another one or bigger, then we need to do that. As far as being able to go over and I can talk to people. That's me. I can talk to people. I went several times to the hospital with ideas for the paint link and donation areas and stuff to try and help the cancer center and stuff like that. So I'm not afraid to go talk to people and listen to people. That's the main thing about being on the city council is you have to be there for everybody. You cannot be there for just a small group or just trying to think you're going to help one little person. You just can't. You have to be there for everybody in the community, and that's my plan.
Thanks, Jack. Steve?
Yeah, being on city council is a job. It takes an average of 20 hours a week between the other meetings you have to go to. I'm applying for this job because I know it's a job. This is a job interview. I have the experience that it requires. This is a job for someone that has the right kind of ability to deal with people. This is not a job for someone who becomes angry under fire or becomes argumentative. This is not a job for someone who spreads misinformation, either social media or publicly. The remarks made tonight about the pool is wrong. The pool was voted on by the public through cap tax. That's how that pool was voted on, how it was bought, and how it was paid for. The voters voted on it. Nonprofits on the the optional 1%, it's on the optional 1%, so much money was going to nonprofits. The public voted for it. So misinformation is not a good thing to do if you're going to take this job. And this is a job also that if you're on city council, you do not take liberties and make bad remarks about other elected officials that you're going to have to work with. That's not what you do when you're an elected official. A good gauge of future performance of a city councilman is by their past performance. I have served on council for 8 years, and I believe Sheridan is a good place to live. You turn your water on, the water comes out. You flush your toilet, it goes the right direction. You call the police department, they show up. We do a lot of the good essentials, and we do a lot of other things that are nice. But if you're going to be on city council, do not come with the idea you're going to change it. We do not need to be saved. Sheridan is fine, and we're doing well. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Bev.
Our community is growing. Our local economy is the backbone of our community. I'm dedicated to supporting an environment where small businesses can thrive, creating job opportunities and attracting new industries. As we continue to grow, it is essential that we do so in a way that preserves our natural environment and enhances our quality of life. I am committed to promoting smart, planned development that respects our town's heritage and looks to the future. I believe I have demonstrated my commitment to the community through the various organizations to which I belong, and I would invite you to take one of my cards from out in the lobby. If elected, I will bring the same spirit of dedication and partnership to my role on City Council. What sets me apart from my fellow candidates? Since my retirement a year and a half ago, I have continued to attend City Council and study session meetings. I also attend public meetings on current projects, such as Little Goose Creek, Hume Draw, and Main Street. I am up to speed on the issues before council, and I can hit the road running. I am unique in that I have the perspective of having worked with staff and continue to work with them as I am a member of the Planning Commission and Transportation Steering Committee. I understand how council and the city work. There is no other candidate that has the historical knowledge or background of the city, nor can they match my experience. In closing, I want to emphasize that this campaign is about more than just one person. It's about all of us, working together to create a community we can be proud of. I'm ready to listen, ready to serve, and ready to lead us toward a brighter future. Helen Keller so aptly said, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." Thank you for your support and your vote in November.
Thanks, Bev. Scott Van Dorsten.
Well, I'm a constitutional conservative. I really do believe in the spirit of the law and that it needs to be followed. I'm running for city council to be the voice shouting in the forest. Because there's a lot going on that is deceptive. False information is absolutely correct. Sure, yeah, the people of Sheridan did vote probably to renovate the pool. They didn't vote to spend $5.5 million on an entire water park. That's a little excessive. This is the type of spending and the type of twisting of information that's going on right now. The water park thing was all done by a survey, was decided on by a survey that, and I quote, the survey said they got around 1,000 responses. So 1,000 responses went from renovating a pool to an entire water park. That doesn't seem right to me. That seems excessive. That seems like wasting money. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of. I'm seeing a lot of bureaucracy. I'm seeing a lot of wasteful spending. And these are the things that I'm running for city council to point at and show the light on those sort of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Please join me in thanking our candidates for City of Sheridan council members. As they're exiting, I just want to, on behalf of the Chamber and Government Affairs Committee, I'd like to thank all of our candidates and volunteers. A special thank you to the WYO Theater and staff here and our Chamber staff. Can I have a round of applause for our Chamber staff? And thank you all for attending, and please vote on or before November 5th. Thanks.